My name is Dr. Tanya Durden. I am in the Department of Child, Youth, and Family Studies here at UNL, and this is our TLC one-on-one expert conversation. I have with me today Miss Susan Jack. I'm so very excited to have her. She has over 25 years of experience in private consultation in early childhood and special education. And what's really exciting is she's currently working with early childhood professionals and families across the country, focusing on promoting program-wide positive behavior support. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks, Tanya. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're so excited to have you because we really want your expert professional opinion and expertise related to the pyramid model. And so we have a few questions related to the pyramid model. So first, based on your experience as a master trainer, a pyramid model consultant, and you've been there from the very beginning, can you share with us why the pyramid model approach is so effective?
It's effective, I think, for a lot of different reasons. And I've been in this field for a long time, so I started working with kids with challenging behaviors at an early stage in my career, and I started working with adults and then youth who were in prison settings. I was going in and teaching, trying to be the teacher, in-house teacher for these kids, and they, by the time they're 13, 14 years old, they're pretty entrenched and they're invested in their behavior, let's say. So when we get to start thinking about the approach we support little kids who have challenging behaviors, to me, it makes that investment so much sooner, and that is so powerful. When we can invest in a little child, a young child, and help them learn different ways to behave so that they don't get to the point where they're really ingrained, those behaviors are really ingrained, they're entrenched in the way that they view the world. So that part of it, I think, is one of the things that resonates. It makes a difference early on. We know this about early intervention in general, and that holds true around behavior as well. The other thing I think that the pyramid model was just in time about is that it's a system of supports. So we learned a lot from the 20 years of work that has gone into school-wide implementation of positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS. We've learned a lot from that and know that it's different in early childhood, and little kids need different things than big kids do. And so as we've worked through the pyramid model, it helps us to make those adjustments where kids need that additional early childhood adaptations, modifications, accommodations, and certainly with an eye toward what they need developmentally. So the pyramid model has been the response to what we know to be effective with older kids. Here's what little kids need, and we can kind of learn from that and implement that in a developmentally appropriate way.
So the pyramid model really has been around for maybe 12 years. So it's been, an evidence-based practice for some time. Can you talk a little bit about how it has evolved over time?
Yeah, I was telling you, I moved recently, not that long ago, and I found a box of overheads that I had drawn a pyramid on, and the plastic overheads,
yes.
right? We didn't do PowerPoints back in those days, but I was doing training for schools and Head Start programs, in talking about a systematic way to support all kids, and that's what the pyramid model does. It teaches us that systematic way. But what changed for me, what was a game changer when the pyramid model came into practice or into place, was that it's grounded in specific practices. It's grounded in what to do to prevent challenging behaviors from happening, what to do to teach kids specific social skills, and what to do to intervene for children who need a higher level of intervention. And it gives us a way to know what to do tomorrow, to know what to do right away with little kids. So it gives us that sense of specific practices, and I think that that's been really important through that. The two national centers that came up, in the evolutionary sense, that were funded nationally, provided training and technical assistance in the pyramid model that was all just about early childhood, and we didn't have that before. And so these two centers, CEPHL and TAXI, just gave us a world of resources, and that's been the game changer. That from that over those 12 years, we have teaching practices, we have tools, we have resources, we have training materials, we have video examples, we have supports for families. I mean, all of those resources have just blown up through these two centers. And that's been invaluable. I think those things have really been game changers for a lot of folks, including myself. I mean, they didn't exist before these two centers came into play. So I'd say that this has been fundamental to the work that we've been able to do around the pyramid approach is through those two centers.
So there's several resources, several strategies, several tools that are available. Can you maybe provide 3 takeaways related to teaching strategies or tools or resources that are very key?
3's hard.
I know, 3 is so difficult.
3's hard, but I'll try. I think the first one, and it sounds simple because it's at the base of the pyramid model, but it's about relationships. And to me, that means investing in every kid and figuring out what does it take, what is it about this child that's special, and how can I adjust my teaching practices, my parenting practices, my caregiving practices to meet that child where he or she is. That really taps into that specialness. We're all special, but boy, wouldn't it be great if I had somebody to figure me out.
Absolutely.
You know, so this approach helps us to really take the time to invest in every single child and get to know every single child and build a relationship with every single child. And that helps us to be better teachers. Regardless of what our role is, we all have a teaching role, and it helps us to be better teachers if we can connect with a child first as a person, and then through that relationship, then we can figure out what sort of supports actually need to be in place to help that child learn to their best. The second takeaway, I guess, is that what I've learned through this work is that it requires, it's much more in-depth of an approach than just going to training. You know, I used to do workshops all over the place, and then I would leave and I'd never see somebody again. And I think what this approach requires us to do, asks us to do, is to think more systematically about training and professional development. We want to invest in it over time. We want to have a thoroughgoing approach to training and professional development. That means it's connected to everything else they're doing, that it's a preventative approach, so we're not just learning how to intervene when a child has a tantrum. We're learning how to prevent that tantrum from happening in the first place. We're learning why the tantrum might happen, and then what can we do to prevent it from happening. So it's a much slower process. There's no quick fix, but it's a much deeper investment and a much more successful investment in a child who has challenging behaviors and who has a need to communicate to us through their behavior. And so that's this investment helps us to get to that sense of purpose and really kind of figure out who each child is. The last piece of it, I think, is a little bit more global, and it's related to the work we're doing here in Nebraska. It's much more of a systematic approach, that there's a system in place, not to support just a classroom teacher, but to support the early childhood program in which he or she works, that supports the community in which that program resides, that supports, you know, the region for training and technical assistance. So there, and then at the state level, which is what we're doing here, is that those efforts are coordinated. So there's a thoughtful process, a coordinated process to provide training and coaching and technical assistance and behavioral supports that is connected across all different delivery systems. So having that systems approach, again, is a big investment, but it's totally worth it in the end because we get much better outcomes and much deeper, richer outcomes when we can have a community or systematic or statewide approach that's really invested in child success and positive social emotional outcomes.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Susan. And this has been our TLC one-on-one expert conversation with Susan Jack on the pyramid model. Thank you.
Thank you.